If you don't prioritize your needs before you bring another human being on this earth, what happens is you create this resentment within yourself. And this resentment is because you don't know why you feel so tired, like disconnected, and why you have this resentment towards your child who needs so much from you. Your children are your greatest guides. They are the ones that save us if we are willing to be saved. My youngest child was that spark that I needed to create a better life. They have been my biggest teachers.
Hello, medicine family, and welcome back to another episode of the We Are the Medicine podcast. Today, I am joined by my beautiful friend, Raquel Moragues. Raquel is a Reiki master and trauma-informed life mentor who is incredibly passionate about holistic healing. We begin our conversation talking about the shifts that have been happening for us since the recent eclipse season. I don't know about y'all, but it's been a little crazy. I know it has for a lot of people in my life. So I'm sending you love. I hope that you are moving through these transitional phases with grace and ease. Our discussion evolves into a very important conversation about meeting our own needs and setting boundaries in motherhood and beyond. We talk about the resentment that many mothers feel when they fall into patterns of neglecting their own needs and prioritizing everyone else before themselves. This can cause so much stress for mothers when they become the martyrs for their families and sacrifice all of their needs and desires for everyone else. We talk about the ways that mothers will sometimes project this resentment onto their children and their partners, and the ways that this can leave children with feelings of shame and feeling like a burden. I speak from my personal experience when I talk about this. Raquel expresses the challenges that she faces as a single mother and her evolution into conscious parenting. I really, truly feel that there is nothing more important than parents, especially in this time of evolution of human consciousness, because parents are the ones who instill beliefs and patterns and habits into their children. And so there is nothing more important than parents. And as parents are able to become more conscious, this gives them the opportunity to rewrite these toxic patterns, these toxic cycles of our family's lineage, and hopefully ensure that our children will be able to blossom into the humans that they are meant to be. Through healing our own trauma, this is how we can ensure that it is not passed down to our children. And I believe that this is really what is going to bring the most radical change in the world, is parents and all humans healing our trauma so that we don't project it and pass it on to others, especially our children. Raquel and I also discuss the ways that our children are our greatest teachers and can be a huge catalyst for our evolution. This conversation for me really illuminates a lot of the ways that parents in our society need more community around them, need more support from the people around them. And it also illuminates the need, I believe, for a more mother-centered family structure where the mother is not completely sacrificing herself, where the mother feels nourished and supported and able to take care of herself and fulfill out her life's dreams as well. I truly feel that a nourished mother is a nourished family, and a neglected mother is a neglected family. I believe that the mother is the center of the family structure, and when she suffers, the entire family suffers. So I hope that you all really enjoy this episode. I feel like it's such an important conversation that everyone needs to hear, especially parents, and maybe you can get some good tips and understandings of ways that you can help yourself and learn to meet your own needs as a parent, because you deserve to have your needs met as well. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the We Are the Medicine podcast. Today, I am so happy to be here with my dear friend Raquel. Thank you, Raquel, for being here. I'm so excited
I'm
for
so
this.
excited.
We were getting into a real nice, juicy conversation before we started recording, just about, you know, it, I don't know how y'all feeling in this like eclipse season that has just, we're getting out of it, but it's been a lot, and we've both been just going through the motions, going through a lot of stuff. So if y'all are
Hmm.
feeling like that, you're not alone.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I think a lot of the people, I mean, at least in my life that I'm connected with, have been talking about like strange, feeling detached from like things that they used to love. And I'm always like, lean into that, lean into it, lean, lean into the things that like the newness of stuff. But because the human design is be afraid of something new, be afraid of change, or even just like a lot of us can't accept upgrades because you have to break down, you have to break down completely the way that you were programmed, the way that you were designed in order to be able to move through the medicine that is upgrading. And a lot of people are like, no, because it's scary, it's hard work, and the people that are doing the work, we're getting judged because we're setting these boundaries that are like out of the ordinary, like we were talking about when we before we started, was taking time to rest or sit in complete silence. I've done it before, but I have never done it so much since, I want to say, March. March was the time where I literally heard my inner voice being like, either you stop and you stop worrying and you stop stressing and you rest and you cancel plans and you cocoon, or forget it. Just forget it. Forget what your goals are, forget where you want to go, forget the health that you want. Health, like forget health, forget it. um but even that is so uncomfortable to be like, sorry, I can't go, thank you.
Oh yeah, like when you really start setting boundaries with people, especially like family members and things. Thankfully, I don't have a lot of issues right like that for myself currently, but I see
Right.
people around me, and um people are like, "What? What do you mean? Like you're acting different. You're not just, being a people pleaser like you used to. What's wrong with you?" And like it's just so funny when I think about, even the things that you said, even of like just sitting in silence. A lot of people will look at you and be like, "You're crazy." What are you doing? What do you mean you're just gonna sit there and stare at the ceiling? Like
Yeah.
we're so
Yeah.
conditioned, and those programs come up in so many different ways. So it really is such an unraveling process, and you start to see all of these ways that you have been thinking or acting or believing in a way that is not true and is not yours. It's just something you picked up from society, from family, friends, your upbringing, all of it.
Yeah, or like even just genetics, like in your genes, because anything that happens in our lives, our genes, create proteins, and proteins are like the basic foundation of like how we are made. So it's decoding all of that, and I think that that's where the deepest work is. And silence is scary for a lot of people who um have minds that just keep racing. They're afraid of their own thoughts. So it's also another conditioning, the conditioning of like the rambling that goes inside our brains, that nobody has given us this like safety to even. I have a lot of clients that I'm like, well, we're going to meditate, and there's a lot of eyes that roll in the back of the head, there's a lot of like heads that cock back, there's a lot of like this rejection of like the culture of it. And I'm like, but it's not even, take all the culture out of it, take everybody who talks about meditating out, take absolutely everything at all, get to the basis and basis of like the original societies, the original indigenous people, the original baseline, children of the earth, that all they had was moments of silence. Just connecting with the moment of silence, getting through that crazy chatter inside your brain. I always say you do 5 minutes. The first 3 to 4 minutes are the hardest. It's that last minute of bliss that you sit there and you're like, whoa, nothing is happening yet. everything is happening all at the same time. It's an incredible feeling.
I love that. And I feel like so many of us were just so overstimulated in our
Hmm.
society. Like, I mean, I deal with that at times, having like racing thoughts and my thoughts being very scattered and jumbled.
Hmm.
And it makes sense when you think about it because we are living in a world that is not necessarily designed for humans to thrive. You know, so many of us are disconnected from nature, especially if you live in the city. There's just
Hmm.
concrete everywhere and cars driving and people around. And it's like no wonder we're all so overstimulated. And then when you actually take that moment to sit with yourself, and then you realize how overstimulated you are, how much your mind is racing, but you can't possibly get to that place of just stillness and peace if you're not willing to sit with the chaotic thoughts. That's the essence of
Yes,
meditation, you know, is to
yes,
just
yes,
be with whatever is here right now.
yes.
It doesn't have to mean being a yogi sitting on a mountaintop and having no
No,
thoughts ever. That's not really the point.
no. It's getting to the point where even so, I will get. I've been very consciously being pulled. I've just gotten to a point in this practice, and I've been on this journey for a good, I would say, solid 3 years. Like the journey's been very long, but the very solid in this practice and learning and studying and teaching and just allowing to be led. As an Aries, as a young child, I was the definition of don't tell me what to do. I will do whatever I want. I will go against everything that anybody says. I'm in control of every decision. And I would be just I fired up really quickly. You say something to me that I didn't want to hear, and I would flip you upside down. Nothing constructive came out of that. And I didn't start really learning that until I really focused on this practice 3 years ago. But now I have the calling. Like I just keep hearing like spirit or, my guides being like, okay, so we're gonna meditate. And I'm like, but I just want to go hang out and just watch the show. And they're like, no, no, we're meditating now. And then I keep getting all these like, this is the new breathwork exercises that you're gonna work with. And I'm like, I don't want to. And they're like, yeah, but you're gonna, because you keep invoking this, you keep calling for this, you keep asking for this. So let's do it. And honestly, it's been just in the last, I've really been focusing on this since March. It's been for me life changing. Like I give less of a fuck about who is going to get upset if I don't want to do something. And that alone creates this catalyst of magnetism of the things that we actually want in our lives. It's wild.
And you know, it really relates to what we were talking about before we started is this conditioning that many of us have been
Mm.
programmed with that we should not prioritize our needs, that other people's needs and desires and wants should come before us at all times. And then so when you start to prioritize your needs and you have plans to hang out with someone and you're not feeling it that day and you cancel, some people will get triggered and be like, "Well, what do you mean you're prioritizing your needs because I don't prioritize my needs, so why should you?"
I know, right? Absolutely. Or they start labeling it like you must be depressed. There must be depression. I'd be like, I mean, I guess if you could label it as depression, but like I sit here and I'm in a place where everything I can think of in my life currently, and I'm doing it right now as I'm talking to you, there's nothing out of alignment. There's nothing that I would change. There's nothing that I'm unhappy with. I just been listening to my body. And I kid you not, I think it last week. So my birthday was on the first. I celebrated like I love my birthday. And then like by that Tuesday the second, on the rest of the week, I slept. I that Tuesday I brought my children to school and I slept from like 8 to almost 2. I I was like, I'm not putting an alarm. And I just slept. And then I picked up everybody, I fed everybody, and I consecutively did that for a couple of days in a row where I just telling you, I've never slept so much in my life. And people would be like, oh, you must be depressed. I'd be like, no, I think it's like all the years of conditioning, all the years of working 70 hours a week, all the years of worrying about what my boss is going to say, what my coworkers are going to say, what my family is going to say, what my kids are going to expect, what my ex-husband's going to say, because I'm taking time for myself. I even took a weekend that I didn't have anything going on with, and I didn't have my kids. I make the schedule for them, and I rested. I rested the whole time. And best me, old me, the programmed me that has comes from a society of pick up more hours, make more money, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do more, do more, do more, do more, do more. She basically just said, that is enough. And that's what the eclipse season has brought for me. And I think this is what this whole, you know, like we were talking about, like the wounded warrior moving out of my sign is, it's like finally there's a part of all of us that is like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I have to stop. I have to reset.
Oh my God, that is the perfect word for this eclipse season. It really does feel
Mm-hmm.
like a reset in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the first lunar eclipse to like all of the stuff for me like came up and I was like, okay, yeah, this is stuff I've been needing to let go of. And then like the closer we got to that solar eclipse, it was like, all right, I'm letting it go. And it feels definitely like we have come upon a new energy, and it's going to be really interesting to see what that brings. But I did, I wanted to mention something like that we talked about earlier is, like I said, we've been conditioned as a society to not prioritize our needs. And it seems that that especially goes for mothers. And I see it in this world where I feel like it's a lot worse now that women are expected to work just as much as men,
Mm-hmm.
which there's so many benefits that comes along with that, but women mothers have been conditioned to believe that they should be the martyr for the entire family. They should sacrifice their needs for what everyone else needs. Yeah, you're not going to get any sleep. Don't eat all day. Like you forget to eat because you're taking care of your kids and cleaning the house and the husband, and then now you're working on top of that and you're expected to hustle and grind and make more money like you said and take care of the home and the family. And it's like, when do women decide like, no, I'm gonna take care of myself, I'm gonna take care of my needs? That's, I mean, I'm not a mother yet, but that has been just a big theme for me in these last few months, is learning how to prioritize my needs,
Mm-hmm.
because I have spent a lot of my life also putting other people's needs in front of mine, and frankly not even really knowing what I need. So I'm still learning how to ask myself, what do I need right now? Oh, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling stressed out. I'm feeling scattered. What do I need?
That's amazing. And it really, really like I am so proud of you for being able to sit in this space with yourself and say, what do I need? How am I feeling? Where am I feeling it in my body? Where do I find myself in my body? Because if you set this foundation for yourself now, and I talk about this stuff that I'm like, these are all classes. This is a class that would be perfect for teenagers and high schoolers to take, that prioritizing your needs. Because if you don't prioritize your needs before you bring another human being on this earth side, if you don't prioritize your needs now, what happens is you create this resentment within yourself. And this resentment is because you don't know why you feel so tired, so like disconnected, and why you have this resentment towards your child who needs so much from you. And then we start reading books like how to take care of your children when it's naturally instilled inside ourselves. And I'm not saying that we don't need guidance and we don't need help, because honestly, raising children takes a village, and because we are communal beings. So it's really good for you that you've created this ability to be like, what do I need? Am I tired? Am I thirsty? Like, what are my hierarchy of needs? Where am I on that spectrum? Like, where am I sitting? Because currently, outside of being a parent, and especially now being a single parent, I have finally, at 41 years old, probably 40, At 40, it actually hit a pinnacle in March of last year, right before I hit my 40th year, when I got into this like darkest conversation with my ex-husband, which was the catalyst of the greatest time of my life. It was that moment I was like, hold on, hold on 1 second. I'm the mother, and therefore these are all my obligations. Excuse me, what? Nope. Then I started at 39 years old, really questioning what my needs are.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I just so resonate and love everything you said. And I really wanted to talk about that resentment piece because I had a mother who was very disconnected from herself and very much prioritized everyone else's needs over hers. And then she would get to this place where she's like, well, why is nobody doing anything for me? Why is nobody helping me with this? Why? And then she was a very deep in unconsciousness, and she would project that resentment onto me. And so I have been working through a lot of feelings of feeling like a burden, feeling like
Mm-hmm.
things are my fault. And I felt like that a lot as a child because my mom would really make me feel bad for existing in some ways. And I definitely, I think that a lot of people can resonate with this, and I think that there's different degrees that unconsciousness can go to, but it is somewhat normalized in our culture, in our society, like we said, for mothers to not prioritize their own needs, and then they build this resentment, and then they say things like, oh well, I'm doing all these things, you know, I'm making sure that you have dinner on the table, and I'm making sure that you're fed and clothed. And there's this culture that's been created of mothers blaming their children for the mother not meeting her needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then the children grow up with this sense of shame and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like there's something wrong with them or they did something wrong just by being born and
Mm-hmm.
existing. And no,
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't feel like that.
No, we shouldn't. We absolutely shouldn't. And I grew up around a similar. I mean, it's also societal, right? In that there's certain these like age groups of people that that's how they grew up, just being. We were talking about this the other day, and the resentment comes from, so our parents treated them as like subordinates. So it was like this hierarchy of like, the parent is the boss and the
Yes.
child is the employee. And it's passed down through generations, and it's passed down obviously through our coding and our genes. And every generation, if they take the time to pause and sit in the silence of really checking in with themselves, starts to sort of reprogram that lineage, right? But it's not an easy thing to do. And I have been on that path of, I do all this stuff, I create all this space, I do all these things, I'm here, I'm doing, I'm with my children, not so much presently. And that I started to figure out how to be a more conscious mother years ago, through my healing, through my abuse with my ex. um I still have moments where it always does, because it's part of the trauma and part of who we are. We're human beings. It rears its ugly head around the corner, but I'm capable of sitting there, because mistakes can be made, but the purpose of mistakes is for you to be able to never repeat them, and be able to sit in front of somebody and be like, I messed up, this is my explanation, I'm going to work really hard for it to have ever happen again. And now, instead of using those words, I'm like, I need help, I need you to be part of this team. I cannot move this household forward without some support. And that's another thing, that mothers are shamed. We're shamed. You're asking your kids to do things around the house. And my kids, we don't call it chores anymore, because that's a terrible title for it. But to be able to have a stable home, you need a village, because we're communal people. Like,
Yes. Like we're
yeah,
not meant to do anything by ourselves. So
no.
why is it that mothers are expected to just do
Yes.
everything around the house by themselves? There's this woman I follow and I wish I could remember her Instagram right now, but she talks specifically about teaching your kids how to do chores, like you said. And I don't really resonate with that word either. But
It makes me uncomfortable.
yeah,
It's
it's
like,
like there's certain things, like when you say it's a chore, it automatically feels like a drag. It automatically
yeah,
feels like, oh
yeah,
God,
yeah.
I have to do
Or
this.
the word punishment too. Like I hate that word. We use the word consequences. Consequences because but anyway, continue. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No,
This lady.
you're totally good. I love keeping it conversational. But yeah, she talks about the mental load of running a household. So when you have, you
Whoa.
know, dishes in the sink, laundry that needs to get folded, the swores, the floors need to be swept, and things like this, that causes a mental load. And it is not and should not be one person's responsibility to fulfill that entire mental load. And then the more people you have making more messes, the more load that is. So she just talks about sharing that mental load and teaching her children like that we can share this together and it'll make it easier for all of us. And if you can just start to notice things, like just, I think she calls it noticing, like notice that these dishes need to
I
get
love
cleaned
that.
up, you know, and be like, okay, like
Notice.
I'm going to take 5 minutes instead of being like, do this chore, right? But yeah, I think that that is so important. And I think to some extent, being a parent, though I'm not a parent yet, I feel that there is a level of service and sacrifice that is required, but I don't think it's to the extent that we have made it to be in our society. And I feel like our generation and the generations coming are really here to notice these things and shift
Mm-hmm.
them because we're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, mom just has to cook and clean and take care of the kids and take them to school and do all these things and then make sure the husband's good and never worry about herself. Like
Right, right,
that
right.
make sense for me. Like I'm not doing that. I don't know
A hundred
what y'all
percent.
want to
And
do.
I don't no, and I don't think anybody should. And you know, from a personal perspective, I'm a single parent. It's just me and my dudes and the dog. So just saying that out loud, it's just a lot. Plus, you know, I have to run the household and I have to pay the bills and you know all this good stuff, right? And I'm trying to instill these new narratives for my boys. I always I don't say notice. I wrote those down, but I like that notice. I say if you feel inspired to contribute today, this, this, and this seems to be a bit out of place. I would really appreciate some cooperation. And some days I'm like, clean it up because I don't want to do it. So I'm not always in a place where I'm just like I try to be gentle parenting has become something that I'm learning in the last 5 years because coming from a trauma centered relationship with the masculine in my relationship, he still instills those, well, she is your mother. So therefore, she is responsible for a list of things. And sometimes my teenager will mirror that because we mirror each other. Because again, we keep saying it, we're a community. He'll mirror that and he'll come at me with, well, you are responsible for feeding me. And for me in my body, I feel the triggers because I've brought this awareness to it. And but I'm in a place now where I can hear where it's coming from. And I can sit there with him and be like, you're correct. I will say that to him. I'll be like, you're correct. I am. It is my sacrifice. It is my commitment. It is my duty to make sure that my babies are fed from the day that they are born, from when the day they're within me to the day that they are born, and then on until the break of dawn, right? On and on until the break of dawn, because I'm never gonna stop feeding them somehow. I'm like, you're correct,
Mm.
respectfully. I go, but you also have to understand that if you are hungry, your brother's probably hungry and your mama is probably hungry. So instead of demanding for me to make the chicken or fry up whatever you're going to fry up, maybe your perspective should be shifted to what does my community need? What do my people need? How can I assist to bring on whatever needs to be done? And it's difficult to change that reality and that perspective, because society is very much like that. Like you said, like this mom is the martyr. Mom feeds even the ex-husband. Even the ex-husband. That's another big equation in my life. Well, your ex-husband, X, Y, and Z. And I'm always like, ah. So the new lesson in this too is like, we are two completely different entities. We're in New Zealand over here. I'm like, and he is in Chile. I go, so even though we're really close in proximity, the reality of the world is that my bubble and his bubble of existence is different. So the minute you step through the threshold in this house, this is how we construct things. And the minute you step through the threshold in his house, that's how he constructs things. So it's a difficult duty, and you're right. It's about sacrifice, but like, you can't sacrifice when you're on the ground bleeding because you've done nothing for yourself. How can you can't fill from it? What is it? You can't pour from an empty cup.
If you're passionate about natural healing like I am, if you like to work with herbs, making herbal concoctions and infusions and just doing a bunch of witchy goddess shit, but you're looking for somewhere to source high quality herbs in bulk, then look no further than Star West Botanicals. Star West Botanicals is your online supply source for bulk herbs and natural products. They have a wide selection of nearly 3,000 natural products such as organic bulk herbs, spices, loose leaf teas, essential oils, and aromatherapy supplies. They also have all the tools you need to make your own herbal products such as tinctures, capsules, body butters, and more. But if you don't feel like making them yourself, Star West Botanicals also has their very own line of herbal products such as herbal tinctures, infused oils, flower waters, and so much more. I love getting my herbs from Star West Botanicals because they really put an emphasis on finding the most high quality products that they can, and I really love making my herbal remedies with their products from their store. So if you're interested in getting some amazing organic herbs, natural supplements, tinctures to support you in your healing journey, you can find them by clicking the link in the show notes and checking out their store. Thank you so much for listening to this ad and supporting this podcast. And now let's get back to the show. And that goes for all of us, because I believe that we're all here to be of service in one way or another to the collective. Whether or not we choose to step into that and actually do it is up to us. But regardless, we're constantly in service. We're in service of our family and our friends and our partners, and we can't ever be of service truly to another if we are not in service to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and not in a narcissistic or egoic way, but just in a, like, I deserve to meet my needs. I deserve to be able to, I can't tell you how many mothers I hear who are like, yeah, I haven't showered in 2 weeks. Like, it's okay. Like, you can take 10 minutes, 15 minutes and take a shower. Your family is not going to fall apart.
Yeah, but we're programmed to think that they are. And we're programmed to think that they are by the wounded masculine. But the wounded masculine, they cannot balance out the feminine part of slow, steady, easy. So I that's what my relationship was like. You know, I remember going like 3 to 4 days with newborns, just being like, well, I'll take a shower, because I had to have everything else prepared and done. I have to have, and that comes from a extremely abusive partners, right? For a long time. And it's wild what we believe is the truth. And it's wild how difficult it is to break away from that truth.
Yeah, it's really crazy, and it's so like I'm very glad that the conversation went in this way, because it's not something that I talk about super often, that I haven't talked about yet often on the podcast yet often. Did that make sense? I don't know.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Whatever. Well, English
New
is
beginnings.
Yes. But yeah, I haven't talked a lot about, you know, parenting or motherhood or these things in the podcast, and probably because I'm not a mother yet, but it is something that I'm incredibly passionate about and that I have really gotten into over the last few years, even though I don't have children yet. And I'm actually very grateful. And I feel like spirit has sort of been preparing me in a way, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of people do get thrown into the fire and they don't do a lot of like self work or even think about how do I want to parent my children until the children are here. And that's perfect and beautiful. Like the divine has orchestrated it that way for a reason. But I think it's so important because when we think about, those of us who are healing our trauma and are going on this spiritual journey and wanting to rewrite these patterns of our lineage, who are the people who have usually caused you the most trauma? And it's your parents. And it's because our
Yes.
parents they're the first people that we meet, and they're the they're the people who are with us in the most vulnerable times in our life when we can't even take care of ourselves, and they teach us everything about life. And so when the parents have a distorted view of reality that's based on trauma and, those patterns, then
Mm-hmm.
the children inherit those and we start to play them out, so I think there's probably nothing more important than parents, and talking to people who are new parents now and who are, of this new generation who want to do this healing work, and to just that consciousness and bringing that gentleness and knowing that we don't have to repeat those same patterns. We don't have to do the same things in the same way that our parents
Mm-hmm.
did. And we can bring forth a new generation of humans who they might still have some trauma. Like, you're not perfect. It's okay. But
Yeah, 100%.
the one thing I loved what you said earlier though about that is the being able to take responsibility and admit to your child, hey, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Because so many of us, like for myself, for sure, I never got that. I never got my parents
Mm-hmm.
like saying, hey, I yelled at you and that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And then we grow up thinking that's normal. And then that's why we attract these abusive relationships and abusive people into our lives,
Yes,
because it's been
yes,
normalized.
yes, yes, 100%, 100%. So I'm going to touch on one thing. I think that you are more of a mother than a lot of mothers out there, only because, I mean, there's many reasons, but the main reason right now is because you are capable of acknowledging how complex just the idea or the thought of being a parent and how much respect you have for those out there that are parents. And that's massive. That's one of the biggest foundations of being a parent. And the wildest part of it is the majority of people that you ask, why do you want to have children, they can't answer, or why you have kids, they can't answer it. Where you're in a path where you're more connected to, your feminine power and your ability to create a life, or just be a mother. You don't have to create a life to be a mother. Being a mother is a sort of list of these requirements to be consciously present and being able to pour within yourself while you are giving everything that you have to somebody else. And I'm gonna move forward to what you said earlier too about how being around our parents, any kind of like anybody who raises us, that is the parental unit while we are small, they create our attachment styles. They create like whether we're like anxious attachment style or we are like a disconnected attachment style. There's a bunch of different ones, and it's because we mirror each other. And I said it earlier, but it's how we create the identity of ourselves and how we're gonna be connected to the rest of the world. And if we're not in a safe environment, we end up developing this connection to our brains and our synapses that dangerous environments are love. toxic environments are love, being neglected is love, being ignored is love, being all that stuff. And especially in like highly abusive physical and mental abusive relationships of like the parental unit and the child wants safety, it needs safety, and the only safety it knows, it's dangerous, so they end up like just going inward so hard that they have no boundaries, they don't know who they are, they don't create an identity where they're able to go into the world and do whatever they want. And that comes from so many years of society's ways of programming us, of telling us that you go to school, you graduate, you get a job, or they pay you crap, and you can't afford anything, and you have to pay all these loans.
Can't even pay back your damn loans. You gotta be a free intern. They said, bro, I get like, you get people graduate from college, and then the only job they could get is a free internship.
Intern because you need to be able to put something down on your resume. It's just a big giant lie. So it's just a wheel that keeps turning. So we have to stop it. And you are in the very beginning of this like creation of like who you are. So you can, once you get to the point of where you have a little baby in your hands, or whoever you end up parenting, they're going to be so lucky to have you, because you've had all this foundation where you can now create this new generation, like you said. And it's what we need. And that's what I've been trying to do with these boys, right? And I'm very proud of them, because when I look at them and anywhere that they go, they're like, are you sure they're this young? And I'm like, yeah, yep, they are. But they have this foundation now of like, I will have full conversations about absolutely anything. And really, I'm not even exaggerating. Anything they have questions about, I will openly talk to them. And I speak to them like they're my equal. And I obviously have to be a disciplinary person sometimes, and I have to set these boundaries, and I have to, work through a lot of emotions of like my teenagers just coming at me because their hormones are all over the place. But my intention is to prepare them and create human beings that don't really, I mean, maybe 10% of us are the kind of people that are like, yeah, all the stuff that I did was a lie. I'm going to create a new life now. I want them to start from where I'm at in my 40s, I think it's important for the whole world, really.
Yeah, and like, just bless you, bless you, and bless all the mothers and the fathers and the people who are on this journey of healing and rewriting these patterns. And thank you so much, like, for everything you said, because it's something like, I'm so passionate about motherhood and about birth, and I haven't even necessarily gone through it yet. And it's funny, it really catalyzed for me a few years ago. It's kind of crazy, my journey with this, because when I was younger, I remember in high school, I went through a phase where in maybe even after high school, I would say, I don't think I want to have kids. Like, I would never even want to ruin my body like that. Like the programming, the thoughts I had about it. And I don't know, a few years ago, like, I had a good 2-year period where I was single after like a big breakup, and I just took a lot of time for myself. And towards the end of that, I started feeling like, you know what? I think I'd like to have a family. Like, I think I want that. And it was like a few months later that I met my partner, and it was around the same time that I met him that I started feeling the spirits of my children. And I feel them with me often. And I feel that in so many ways they've been preparing me for when that time comes. And I am very grateful that I'm learning as much as I am, because I had an incredibly like difficult, like challenging childhood. My mother was so deep in like narcissism and unconsciousness. And I think, I'm also 29, I'm going through my Saturn return. I feel like the Saturn return for me, and just this process of even feeling the spirits of my children and feeling like I want to be a better person for them, and they're not even here yet. And the amount of love that I feel when I think of them or I feel their presence is like so massive. I know everybody says like the love that a parent has for their child is like nothing you'll ever experience.
Yeah, it doesn't compare. I love this for you.
Yeah, so I feel in a lot of ways that they have led me to my path and to the healing work that has needed to be done so that I don't repeat those patterns and those traumas.
Hmm. And I love that. And honestly, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad that they're here for you. And for I'm like getting emotional. Your children are your greatest guides, whether they're here with you earthside or whether they're in the spirit world or whether they're a memory, a dream, or a thought. Because of the connection through the genes and the connection with the spirit, and I'm a firm believer in all this, they are the ones that save us if we are willing to be saved. Because if you're not willing to put in the work and the time to sever abusive relationships, move away from abusive things, really go inward and reflect, really learn the patterns of life. And I'm going to say this here, and I haven't said it to him yet, but my oldest child has been a huge guide for me in so many ways, but my youngest child was that spark that I needed to create a better life for myself, because you have to prioritize, and for them, and they have been my biggest teachers. And so has my stepdaughter. Like she's my bonus child. All three of them in some way have I'm sorry.
No,
All
don't
of them
be.
in some way have kicked me real hard to move in this direction. And the reason why, especially through this eclipse, especially through all of these past, since March of last year, has been the biggest awakening for me to be more here for them by being here for myself.
And
Hmm.
that is so beautiful. And I really do just agree. And I feel that our children are our greatest teachers. And I think that we can all benefit from seeing it that way and removing this belief that parents are meant to be this authoritarian like dictator, it's
I
my
know.
way or the highway. Like
I
I
hate that
me too. I
so
bel
much.
and it doesn't like you said, children still need boundaries, like they still need structure, and there has to be some sort of, it's not just a free for all, like children can just do whatever they want. They still need to learn boundaries and consequences and discipline and all of these things. But I truly feel that, having children is the greatest service that you can possibly give to this earth and to the healing of this earth,
Hmm.
because like I said earlier, that is the healing that this world needs, is to get out of these trauma cycles and to allow the children to blossom into the people that they are meant to be. Like I really feel like a parent is just holding space. You're like you're the
Yes.
shaman of your child's
Yes.
experience.
Oh
You're
my
holding
gosh. Yes.
your whole like okay, if you think about like a medicine ceremony, right? Like the shaman or the facilitator, they are holding the container for everyone to go through their experience. And if
Hmm.
someone gets out of hand, if someone starts getting unruly and punching people or something, the shaman or the facilitator will, set the boundary, set the
Yes.
structure so
Yes.
that doesn't happen. But you're just holding the container for your child's growth and expansion.
Hmm.
And I just pray that my children will not have to work, like unlearn so many things that aren't real, or, these beliefs and things like that I've literally had to spend like 10 years thus
I
far
know.
just unraveling. And I'm going to
I
probably be
know.
doing it for the rest of my life. But
I know.
I just imagine the world that can be created when we have humans who are growing up and they can just be who they are and they're not
Absolutely.
holding on to all of these programs
Absolutely.
that aren't real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. You've said it. It it's amazing. Yes. I couldn't have said it better. I really couldn't have said it better, because that's exactly what we should be here to do. What we're here to do. I mean, yeah, I hold space, but like you are such an incredible example too for a lot of women and families that are out there trying to create new life, because yes, we're the facilitators, but if we don't hold space for ourselves, we're just going to drag these kids down with us, and we're going to create these monsters that we don't need in this world anymore. The majority of the pain that we feel in this world, the majority of violence, the majority of crimes, the majority of abuse, all of that comes from unhealed wounds of not being enough, of not being loved unconditionally, of not being seen, of not being heard, of lack of hope, of lack of support, of lack of the community system, lack of all that is of not setting boundaries, like saying no to kids who are very opinionated and have free will, because my children have free will, is very difficult to do, because you don't want your child to be mad at you. You don't want your child to be disappointed, you don't want them to cry, but it's getting to a place of that, being fully holding space for yourself and aware of who you are, to understand that it does not matter if you're coming from a conscious present place. It doesn't matter what the reaction is of putting a boundary for your child. If they're upset, if you can hold space for them too, and just be like, I understand that you're frustrated and you're mad at me, we can talk about this now, or you can go take some time to process what's going on and then come back to me and speak to me. Those are all things that nobody teaches us this, because we're very much a reactive society of getting answers yesterday, and getting into fights that we don't need to get into fights because we take things too personally. So you're absolutely right. But it's difficult to get to this place, and you're already there as a parent, because for me, what I remember is this whirlwind romance, marriage, children, and just not knowing anything about anything, not realizing what my actual role was in the whole situation, and waking up one day and just being like, whoa, I have been in an abusive relationship. I've produced two lives. I don't even know what I'm doing with them. Something's got to change. And relearning all of it, and sitting, I used to cry by the dishwasher all the time, and I would sit by the dishwasher. I don't know why, it was like the spot. I would sit and I would cry, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing? I don't even know how did I get here to raise these kids? They're gonna need so much therapy. I mean, obviously we all could use a really good therapist, but like I just remember those moments of just being like, oof, nobody gave me a map, and I don't want to parent like my parents parented. What am I supposed to do? Like, I found a therapist. I started there.
That can be a good start,
Such a good start. Such a good start. But
Hmm.
yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I
and
love
that's
it.
that's just so beautiful, and everyone's journey is different with it, but I think that children can be such a catalyst for
Mhm.
our growth and our expansion, and being able to hold space for our children's emotions can only happen if we're able to hold space for our own emotions, and like it all comes back to us, right? It all comes back to the
Mhm.
way that we treat ourselves. And you were talking about these wounds of the not enoughness and the all the things you said. I can't remember,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
the
Not being seen, not being heard.
yes,
Yeah,
not being
yeah.
seen and heard.
Unconditional love. I don't think I experienced
Hmm.
unconditional love until later on in my life, in my family dynamic. And it wasn't on purpose by any means. But unconditional love, shouldn't be that difficult, but we get loved based on conditions. If you do these chores, then if you do this, if you get this grade, then if you
Right.
then right
Right.
with my kids, I'm just like, I don't care what you get for grades. If you say you can put in an effort, you put in an effort. I love you no matter what. And then my youngest always gets like really deep, and he's like, if I do this, will you still love me unconditionally? And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably not respect you. I will love you unconditionally. Right.
Right. Right. Like if you feel angry, I'm going to take away love from you, you know? I feel like
Right.
an example that was coming up is something that happened the other day. My partner and I were coming back from the grocery store. There was a lot of traffic, right? It was on this 4-lane road in the city. And we were waiting for this stoplight, this really long line of cars. And one car decided to go into the oncoming traffic lane and just like pass everybody up.
What?
And it made me so angry. I'm very much about like justice and fairness in a way. And it like triggered me, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, who do you think you are? Like, why do you think that you could just go up and pass everybody? We're all waiting here. And I got a little bit angry, but like, I was just expressing my thoughts about it,
Right.
and my partner was like, "Serena, relax." Like he felt like I was getting too activated about it, right? And I had to explain to him that I came from a childhood where I was, and so many women, it's women especially, but all of us, so many of us have experienced this where I was never allowed to express my anger. I was
Mm-hmm.
never allowed to,
Yes.
and I'm an Aries moon too, so I got that that
Yes.
fiery
That fire.
rage.
Yes. It starts in your belly. Yes. Yes.
Yes, and it I have really seen and felt the effects of having so much repressed anger, to where now I'm at this point where if I feel angry, like especially in traffic or like driving is a good example for me. Um I will let myself, like, I will cuss somebody out in the car. In the car though, and I think that's the key, is like I'll
Yes.
let
Yes. In
myself.
your bubble. Right. Yes.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I'll let
Yeah.
myself express whatever emotion if I'm feeling angry or upset, and I'll say exactly what I'm thinking, but not to the person. Like I would never chase them down and get them out of their
Yes.
car and like beat
Yes.
them up or anything
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
And the same thing goes for if I have an argument with my partner or something. I will go in the other room or outside or something, and I will say to myself like exactly what I'm thinking. I'll just express it or move my body in whatever way that I need to move the energy. I think that we should be able to express these things in a safe space where it's not, as long as it's not hurting someone else. And maybe I'll get to the
Absolutely.
point where I'm a Zen master and I can just breathe
Yes.
through my anger,
Yes.
but I'm not
Yes.
there yet. Okay.
Yes, but that you are getting there. You're getting there because you're not feeding that need to erupt on somebody else, and that's what we've been taught. We've been taught that it's somebody else's fault. Somebody else did this. Somebody did that. And you're right. In a lot of our a lot of us, we weren't allowed to express any feelings. You weren't allowed. You were just allowed to be happy. That was it. Happy.
Right.
Sit down, shut up, and be happy. I mean,
Right.
I think I've heard something very similar like that growing up. Like, nobody cares what you have to say. Nobody cares about your opinion. It was a lot of like, when you're 18, no, it wasn't even about that. It wasn't even 18. I don't even know why I said that. It was never
Yeah.
actually, because wherever they were going, I had to be there,
Mhm.
regardless how uncomfortable I was. And there's a lot of weird family dynamics that, like, I don't participate in a lot of things just because, like, and that's a whole suitcase if one day you want to sit with me, of stuff that
Girl, I
I
feel
don't,
you. You're not
yeah,
alone.
I'm in a place where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I wasn't allowed to say no. I wasn't allowed to express myself. And in the same thing, I wasn't allowed to express my anger. And I expressed my anger in such unhealthy ways because nobody taught me how to deal with my feelings. Like, my 14-year-old, and if he can hear me right now, he'll just be like, Mama, why? Because it's true. They don't know. They're just balls of just hormones. Their brains are going 1,000 miles an hour. They have no cognitive brain. They can't really process any feelings. So I have to sit in this space of just, inhaling and exhaling and not erupting, and just having these moments where my voice goes up an octave, because all I want to do is be like, I am so mad and this is why I'm mad. But instead I have to just be like, I'm gonna go to my room and you're gonna go to your room, and then we'll meet up later. And then I like will have to scream into a pillow, or I'll have to go outside, or I'll have to like run around the house, or I'll just have to have these conversations with spirit where there's a lot of anger. And I do that in my car as well. I'm always like, what a selfish bitch. Somebody does something they're not supposed to do. It's like, what that, like today in the car, I did it. I was like, wow, the nerve. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, I feel like we've all done that before though, but the nerve.
Right. And yes, like, these certain it's important for us too to be like, okay, where is this anger coming from? Is this connected to a trauma or whatever? That is important too. And I just also feel like, especially for those of us who haven't been allowed to express these emotions,
Yeah.
maybe we just need some time to let ourselves express it and let ourselves yell and scream and cuss and be angry or whatever in a safe, healthy way that's not hurting anybody, that's not projecting our anger onto other people. I think that's a good step, at least,
100%. And it's a great place to start. And then also, a side note, if we have healthy adult partners that really see us for who we are, I'm not saying that anybody should be pouring their anger on their partner. All I'm saying is, if we have a safe container and something happens that triggers us or makes us upset in that relationship, in that container, our relationship with that partner should be so supportive that they can literally be like, all right, you can say it to me and I will understand where you're coming from. I think that's another place that is easy. Like sometimes I will allow my oldest to just let it all out. And some of the stuff that he says, really, if I mean, it hurts, but then I connect it to why am I feeling hurt by words? That's a huge one too. Like, why are these words? If I know myself well enough, I know that whatever somebody else has to say, if it's not my identity, it's not true. So why am I offended? And it's like you said, it comes from a trauma. It comes from something that is triggered within us that we were never allowed to process or say out loud. In those safe containers, they're difficult and probably near impossible. But if we had those safe containers of just being like, this is why I felt this way, this is how you made me feel, angry, yelling, and swearing, it could be constructive to learn more about one another. But sometimes you can't really get there. But like I said, I allow my oldest to do things like that. My youngest is still not at that place of full eruption of all his stuff. Yeah, but it's coming close. Soon there's going to be two of them, two against one. Okay.
Oh
It's cool.
man, God bless you. Yeah, no, I love that perspective. It definitely brings in another awareness because that is very true. Like if you really know who you are, then no matter what someone else says about you, it can't touch you or hurt you. I think that
Yeah.
there's so much nuance to all of these conversations too because you don't, especially in a partnership, like you don't. I am that person. Like my Aries moon, when I get angry, I will say exactly the meanest thing that I possibly can. And so I really have to like rein it in for myself and like go be with myself sometimes because like I'll just get straight up disrespectful and like it
Gloves
won't
come
be
off,
good for
your
anyone.
sleeves get rolled up, hair goes up in a bun, you're like ready to go. Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
whole existence for a long time. Long time. Or I would like freeze and no. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that repressing the emotions is definitely not good either because that's
no.
literally what causes cancer and all these
Yes.
sicknesses and just so
Mm-hmm.
much trouble and then you're
Mm-hmm.
especially
Heart
anger.
disease. Yeah.
Right. And
Heart
especially
disease,
like
yeah.
anger, it'll just come out in unhealthy ways and you don't want that. It's going to have to get out somehow. So at least let yourself feel it and move it however you need to.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I agree. Such good points. Yes. Yes. That's the kind of partner I'm manifesting. The kind of dude that's just like, all right, let me have it.
Yes,
Come here, let me hold space for you.
bring me your Kali rage and I will witness it. Cut my head off. Do
Let me
it.
let me
Like,
have some of that Spanish Aries. And
oh,
that's another thing
yes.
too, like genetics, right? Spanish Aries, just put on a helmet. That poor man's gonna have to need a helmet, full body armor, incoming.
Yes. I mean, God bless my partner. Like like I said, I definitely keep myself in check a lot of times, but
I
he
love it.
definitely he puts up with me.
He holds space for you.
He definitely does. He
I love
does.
that.
I love him.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that.
Oh my God,
I
this
love
has
that
been
so
such a
much.
good conversation, and I can't believe
I love
like
us.
it's flown by so fast.
I know. So that means we need like a part two, three, four, five. We just have to keep going.
Yes, I'm super open
Yeah.
to, I would love that. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to bring up before we start to close it out?
No, I think we covered a lot of really great things about like connections, community, and parenting, and motherhood. I think it's beautiful how it unfolded. And I wrote down some of the great subjects that are like my favorite. You know, that it's attachment styles and like holding space for one another. You're doing a wonderful job as a human being. You really, really are. I can't even imagine, because your self-awareness is so, it's just it's incredible, incredible. I think you need to give yourself more credit of how wonderful you are, because you can teach so many of us, especially us mothers who just were like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I have babies and I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and how am I going to corrupt them, and how much trauma are they going to have. Because you made some really great points, like that checking in with yourself. That's huge, 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 huge. Which I now, after this conversation, I'm going to incorporate that into the conversations I have with my children. Which I recommend meditation when your kids are very little, to everybody who is listening, because my kids go begrudgingly towards it, and then when I'm like, okay, we're going to breathe out of it, they're all like, yeah, we need like 5 more minutes. So that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That really warms my
Yeah.
heart. It really
Yeah, it's
does. And
true.
um, you know, a nourished mother is a nourished family. And
Hmm.
um, I really saw the weight of having a mother who never prioritized her own needs and then blamed the entire world and was in victimhood for why she didn't get her needs met. And I'm still working through those patterns myself, but that is the biggest thing that any of us can do, is to just have the awareness and the desire and the willingness to work through these things and to shift them. And
100%.
I feel like I love that we didn't come up with a topic or anything before this conversation
I know. I
happened, and
know.
I'm so glad that
Beautiful.
I'm so glad we did it this way, because I feel like
Me
spirit
too.
spirit flowed.
Yeah,
And
it did.
it is something that I'm really passionate about, but I hesitate to talk about because I have that insecurity of people being like, "Well, you don't have kids, you don't really know what it's like."
No, it literally, that doesn't mean anything. Honestly, from where I'm sitting, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm gonna say it again, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't, because I can have kids and not have as much insight about having kids as you do, because we were never taught, prepared for any of it. Not conception, not childbearing, not child having. Like, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a thing. And also, just to add to it too, part of it is also forgiveness, and forgiving yourself, forgiving your parents, forgiving the dynamics, forgiveness. Forgiveness is a huge, huge piece in your journey, through being able to hold space for yourself and hold space for what's around you, and being a conscious parent. And that's what you're building towards. And people that say you have no idea are people who are not pouring within themselves, or people who don't understand the concept of what parenting is like. Like, I need more people like you in my life, or people like you in my life who can say all these things. So I'm like, okay, I trust you with their lives. I have to go take on more clients. I would trust you. And I mean, I trust them as well, but it doesn't, you don't have to have children to understand how to be a good mother, or a good father, or a good grandmother. That's huge too. We need our grandmothers and our grandfathers. right?
Mhm.
We need them. We need that safety in numbers. That I just got chills because that's what spirit intended.
Right. Right. We're missing that so much, that communal aspect so much. We're all just
Mm-hmm.
here in our little houses and we don't even know our neighbors, and half of us don't even talk to our families, or we live far away. And I think that I think that now we have this opportunity to build community of,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes, like, our families, like, we don't, a lot of people probably don't want their kids to be around their family a lot because they don't want to have the same, their kids to have the same trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like we have this
Amen. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
But we have this opportunity now to, build community with like-minded people who can support us and help us. And that is really what I desire to cultivate, before having children, because it does take a village, and like, we're not meant to do it alone. And God, I'm sure that when I have children, so many things are going to change and my perspectives are going to change. But, I am just really grateful to be doing a lot of the work now. And I
Yeah.
was just going to say that, you know, I may not be a parent yet, but I was a child, and I saw
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
examples of what not to do.
And what you don't want. Yes.
Yes. So now
Yeah.
I'm looking to people like you and other mothers who are more in this way of living that I desire, and the way of parenting that I would like to parent my children in a more conscious way. And yeah, like I said, I just think it's one of the most important things. And
100%. I know, I
we
agree.
can't we can't do
Yes.
it right unless we take care of
No.
ourselves.
No. Absolutely. And that is like the mantra, my religion right now is the, I have this conversation with spirit. Like I said, especially since last March, a lot of this I keep repeating it. God, if I am meant to lead the next generation of people back home to themselves, I have to be more present with my children, regardless of what jobs and want money. And therefore, if I'm more present with my babies, I can be clocked in somewhere. So somehow spirit will bring me the manifestations of my success to be financially in a good place, because I cannot be in 1,000 places at once. And the only place that my spirit, my source, myself, Raquel, where I want to be is in the presence of my children. And I'm not saying I'm a helicopter mom by any means, consciously, emotionally, spiritually, here with my squishies until the end of time.
Yes, that is literally the our instinctual biological nature, is to be with our children. And it's almost as if the entire society is set up to break that apart. I don't know.
Well, weird. So
What
weird.
strange. I
Strange.
think that's I think that's the perfect place to end it. I
Yeah,
love
I love it. Me
everything
too.
that
I
you
just heard
said.
that in my head too.
That was
You're
so
such a
perfect.
beautiful human. I love you.
So are you. I love you so much.
Oh my
I'm so glad that
God.
you came. Can you please let everyone know what are you doing out here in the world and where they can find you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So what I'm doing out here in the world is I am trying to change the way that we were programmed to be these machines and just a cog in a big giant wheel. I became a Reiki master a couple of years ago, and through that I found ways of studying how the brain and the connections of the body, the mind, and the chakras work together, and how to heal through the trauma of feeling stuck and not able. And I am on Instagram as Raquel underscore one love healing, and all my information is on there. And I'm actually putting together a class that combines the somatic healing, breath work, and how to understand how trauma has caused our lives to just be a blur, because a lot of the clients that I work with, they don't know how they ended up where they are because they come from trauma brains, and the trauma brain is a place where most of us don't recognize ourselves. So I'm helping people come back to themselves so they can create the life, the abundance, the community that we are all meant to live in. And I want to lead my people, all the people that spirit will bring my way, and my children, to the new earth, right? To creating the newness that we need. No more of this pre-programmed crap. I'm over it.
Yeah, it is time to change the programming.
Yes.
This software is very much outdated.
Outdated.
We're gonna need
That's why
an
I'm here.
update.
We are rewriting. We're rewriting all our scripts. We're rewriting all the programming. We're taking out the motherboard and we're putting in a brand new one.
Amen. Aho. All of the things.
Yeah, all the things.
Thank you so much, Raquel, and thank you to everyone listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and much love to y'all. Peace. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment letting me know how you liked this episode. And if you have topic suggestions for future episodes, feel free to leave them in the comments there. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, it would really help me out if you could leave me a nice review, letting me know how you like the podcast so far. Thank you so much and stay blessed.